Professor Andrew Harris. And today we have a presentation, a brief biography of Professor Harris given by Daniele Morgavi from University of Naples Federico II. And at the end of seminar, the discussion will be moderated by our colleague Francesca Bianco, the director of Vulcano department at INGV. And at the end, we have Dr. Sophie Pailot-Bonnétat that will be held a seminar on Vulcano Island. Please, Daniele, if you want to introduce Professor Harris. Thank you.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the 25th anniversary of the INGV. And this seminar belongs to a special issue from Annals of Geophysics, which is entitled Embracing the Past, Empowering the Present, Envisioning the Future for the 25th anniversary of the INGV. Today we are welcoming Professor Harris, that is going to present a work on tsunami evacuation planning, a blueprint for mitigation action using Stromboli. But before we start, I'm going to introduce to you our presenter, Professor Harris, who has got his bachelor at the University of Exeter in geography. Then he got a master degree in remote sensing, image processing and application at Dundee University in 1992. He got his PhD degree in neuroscience from the Open University in Milton Keynes in UK in 1996 with a topic regarding low spatial resolution thermal monitoring on volcanoes from space. He was, after his education, he was a postdoc fellow at the University of Hawaii from 96 to 98, a research fellow from 98 to 99, an assistant researcher from 1999 to 2001, still at the University of Hawaii, assistant professor at the University of Hawaii from 2002 to 2003, an associate professor from 2003 to 2009 at the University of Hawaii, and full professor from 2009 to 2025 at the Université Blaise Pascal di Clermont in France. His research interests include remote sensing, physical volcanology, physical geography, geomorphology, and social sciences. He has published more than 300 peer-reviewed publications, 2 books, 7 book chapters, and one of his most cited articles is on lava fusion rate definition and measurement, a review by Harris, Den, and Calvary. And an important information before we start for the people online. The one following on YouTube, if you want to ask question, you need to fill a form online that you find below the title of the seminar. Thank you very much, and enjoy your presentation.
Gosh, thank you very much. When I was invited to contribute to the 25th anniversary volume, it was a no-brainer, yes, of course. The problem was choosing what to focus on, because I've had such a lovely time down the last 25 years working with many people at INGV. So the question was, what? Because I began working, the birth date of INGV with Sonia Calvary at first on Mount Etna, looking at lava flows, which is, as you pointed out, our most cited paper, which I did as part of a little contract at INGV Catania way back 2005, I think. And then we began working on Stromboli and Vulcano with people like Letizia Spampinato, Luigi Lodato, Giuseppe Salerno, and then expanded on upwards north to Pisa, where I did some lovely work with people like Massimiliano Favalli, looking at lava flow modeling and measurement. And I decided, though, to focus on the present, where we're currently working with the INGV group in Pisa, notably our co-authors here, Matteo Ceminara and Tommaso Eposti Ungari, and also INGV Palermo, where we've been working on the unrest at Vulcano with Fausto Grassa, Serena Deliberto, and Alessandro Gattuso. And also, it's not my work anymore. It's the work of my students. My PhD here, Emmy Bonilori, whose work, it's all Emmy's work I'll be presenting, none of my work at all. And also the work that we've been doing on Vulcano is Sophie Pailot-Bonnétat's PhD, which she finished last June, and she's now off to the United States to work with Mike Ramsey at the University of Pittsburgh. But she'll give a little bookend to this series, well, this seminar, with the work we've been doing in collaboration with INGV Palermo at Vulcano. Bologna as well, yeah. Giancarlo Tamburello as well. So to get on with things, we're going to present first the work we've been doing to model evacuation routes on Stromboli, but using it as a blueprint for tsunami evacuation from any small island volcano where the tsunami source is proximal. So the workflow is the 4 steps that we'll walk through for this presentation, and it started in the publication in 2021, which was Emmy's master's, which she completed in 2020, I think, which was the setup of the blueprint. And for that, we used the 2002 tsunami scenario to set up the model, to initialize the GIS. And then for her PhD, she began to move on to multi-scenarios, so merging almost 200 different scenarios to come up with probabilistic evacuation routes. And then we're moving on now to work in progress to step 3, which is testing the routes using group exercises, and then coming up with a model for the entire archipelago, all the way out to Salina and Lipari. So step 1 was very much based on the 2002 event, and we used the run-ups and flooding depths for that event to parameterize the model. But now in the final part in step 4, we're moving on to consider the problems on Panarea, Salina, Lipari, and Vulcano due to a tsunami sourced at Stromboli itself. We've not considered the coast of Calabria or northern Sicily because Emmy doesn't have the time. So for the initial modelling, we used the measured run-ups and depths for the December 2002 event, which are mapped here after Tinti. Whoops. Can you drive? Thank you. That's better. And so we took the blue area here for our modelling, that being the area that we needed to evacuate. And Now we've moved on to also considering Panarea, which was touched, I think, about 4 or 5 minutes after that landslide in December 2002. Next. And it all began really with conversations with Maurizio Ripepe and the group at LGS, where we were wanting to link in the time that you needed to get everyone off the beach or the coastal area, the inundation zone, given the warning time. So currently there are these two, well, one now I fear, because the Ginostra side was washed away in a storm a few weeks ago. But the Stromboli village side sensor is capable of picking up a tsunami about 30 seconds after the landslide enters the ocean. And I should say here, we're looking at landslide triggered tsunamis, not seismic triggered tsunamis. Next. So with the algorithm Maurizio has, the waveform of the tsunami is well defined and easy to separate from a normal wave. And I believe that the warning time or the alerts, the sirens, which the new sirens are installed here, those sound about, is it 13 seconds after this waveform begins. So we've got a warning about 43 seconds after the tsunami's been sourced. The question is now, how long will that wave take to get into populated areas? Therefore, how long do we have to get people off of the beaches? And what is the fastest, quickest, most efficient route for them to use? Next. And we're talking about a very variable population. So a lot of our work has been based on trying to get population data, because you've got the boat arrivals, you've got the permanent population, which is actually only about 135 people. But in summer, on a summer's day, you can have anything up to 10,000 people coming and going. And most of them are down there in the beach zone, in the hazard zone. So a lot of Emmy's work has been just people counts, head counts, by time of day and by time of year, both on Stromboli, but also Vulcano and Lipari. Next. So for the first step, it was actually creating the model, initializing the model. And to do that, we took the 2002 red zone as defined by civil protection and used that as the area that we needed to get people out of. Anywhere outside of the red zone, we didn't need to worry about for this scenario. Next, please. So we divided the village up into about 25 sectors and defined the sectors that interacted with the red zone as those that we needed to map and define. And I'm going to focus today mostly on this Fico Grande area, because we have two large hotels here, the Sirenetta and the Miramar, plus many, many Airbnbs, such as this one here, marked B, at even below for the basement sea level. So you've got a large summer population there sleeping overnight at sea level and well below the 10-meter run-up, which we had at the back wall at the cliff here behind the hotels in 2002. Next, Emmy. So the first thing we wanted to do was identify all escape points for all buildings in the red zone. So that involved spending a January mapping all of the buildings in the red zone and mostly identifying viable escape routes, such as the doors, the stairs, the windows, and also how many stories was there to take into account capability for vertical evacuation. And we also took into account whether the windows were shuttered, the type of opening they had on them, to get an idea for how fast people could actually first get out of the house And then what's the best way to get out of the house, the quickest way to get out of the house? The next Emmy. We also did a survey of all the routes to tailor the model for walking speed on the typical routes as a function of surface type, slope, and also whether there are steps and what the angle of the steps are. Where I give this example because it's quite an important evacuation route. This is the route off of the Fico Grande area that would take the residents in the Sirenetta here, as well as the Miramar on that side. So you'd have all of the residents trying to use this stairwell, which is potential choke point. Next. So for that area, we defined the red zone, which was touched by the 10-meter run-up in 2002, an error zone of plus or minus 2.5 meters, and then a green zone, which is above the run-up, which is where we have to get our population to. Next, Emmy. And for each zone, we identified or mapped all points, all exit points that we'd mapped in the field from all the hotels and Airbnbs. And we also placed people across the beach, out the jetty, and we need to get all of these people to these exit points. So this is the entry into the green zone. There's one here 13, one here 12, one here 14. And depending on where you are in this area, certain exit points are quicker and easier to get to than other exit points. So now we need to run the model to figure out which is the closest exit point for horizontal evacuation. But we also took into account building height in case horizontal evacuation wasn't possible. That is, there's not enough time to get to your exit point, which would be here for these guys. So red buildings here are only one floor. Green buildings are 2 floors. So those could be potential for vertical evacuation if there's no time. Next. So then we projected the fastest escape points from every single node in here to its nearest exit point. So the pink routes here, their fastest way out is to go to 12. The blue routes here, their fastest way out is to go to 13. 14 is yellow, 11 is purple. And the threshold time we used here was 4 minutes. That's to say you've got 4 minutes between the siren sounding and needing to get above 10.5 meters. And anything that's green is escapable within that threshold time. Anything that's red cannot be escaped within that threshold time. Next. So then for each point, we made a map in the classic sort of boat or building evacuation style to go on the back of, for example, a hotel door or a restaurant door, to give the person their location and the fastest route out to their evacuation point. And we delivered, in 2002, we delivered about 1,080 of these maps to DPC for potential use. Next. So that's just using one scenario, the 2002 scenario. So for Emmy's PhD, we thought, okay, we've got to think about smaller scenarios and, of course, larger scenarios. So that's when we began the work with INGV Pisa to convolve the INGV Pisa tsunami model with Emmy's evacuation model. So we ran tsunami simulations for 11 different positions from 0 to 10 here, 0 to 3 being subaerial, 4 to 10 being below sea level. 5 volumes of material involved in the landslide between 5 and 30 million cubic meters, and 3 density contrasts between the material and the water, the range being here. So we ran, or Pisa ran, a total of 150, or just over 150 simulations, which gave us an identical number of evacuation models. Next, Debbie. So the first thing we had to put into that from our part was the population distribution. And this is the population distribution based on web-based surveys. So hotel capacities, booking forms, arrivals, departures, allocafe capacities, Airbnb capacities, etc. So we see that the hotspot, the real hotspot, is here at Fico Grande, where we have all the hotels. Also, of course, the port area, where we have all the arrivals and departures, restaurants, bars, etc. Next, Emmy. So the first layer of the model is what's the area inundated and what's the depth of inundation around the coast, where the darker the blue here, the deeper the level of flooding. And this model that we're doing for, by way of example, is from position 6. So it's a submarine landslide involving 30 million cubic meters of material. Next, Emmy. The second time we need is the time for inundation. So here, for example, at Punta Elena, we've got up to about 300 seconds before the wave arrives. And so the time we need to model for the evacuation is 300 seconds minus 30 seconds, because the warning will, of course, be triggered 30 seconds after the event. So 300 minus 30 is the time that we have to evacuate. Next. So we Emmy first came up with these impact scores. And this is simply the impact is assessed by the area in meters squared of the village that will be flooded by any given scenario. So here we have increasing volume from the smallest volume to the largest volume. And here we have the landslide position. So of course, the impact increases with volume, but also decreases with position, especially once you get to the coast, because these are the subaerial landslides. These are the submarine landslides of similar volume. Next, please. We were also able to model the theoretical tsunami gauge waveform that any given landslide combination will cause. And again, we're able to link them to an impact score. So this one here, for example, will have an impact of about 1.2 million meters squared of flooding. And the red bars here is the lasso algorithm. That's a statistical algorithm that allows us to define the waveform. So by the time we've got the final red bar here, we can say this will be the volume, this was the volume of the landslide, this was the position of the landslide, and this will be the area that will be flooded using the C4 pressure sensor signal. Next, please. So then we can begin to map the area of inundation and associate it with the escape routes. So here we have position number 3, subaerial. This is position number 9, submarine, with a small volume and a large volume. And all red points here cannot be evacuated or escaped from within the wave arrival time. Green points, yes. So the workflow really was 1, assess the flooded area, 2, project escape routes, 3, assess the escape times, 4, assess the wave arrival time, and then 1 minus the other is green if the escape time is less than arrival time, or red if the escape time is longer. Next. So we could also backthink that and assess the amount of warning time we need to evacuate effectively any given area. So for example, this is Fico Grande. If we want to get 25% of the people out, we need about 150 seconds. If we want to get 100% of the people out, we need about 425 seconds of warning time. And it varies a bit depending on day and night, because simply during the night there are less people on the beach. They're all at home, in the hotels, in the Airbnbs. The problem is they're asleep. So this is possibly a little bit of a false positive here, because it's not taking into account reaction time. That's to say, wake up, get out of bed, find the children, go. Next. This is the same thing, but island-wide, with an idea of, for this given simulation, the number of green evacuation points, that's to say, we can escape in time, and the number of red, depending on winter, summer, day, or night. So the objective, the potential real-time response protocol, which was the conclusion to the paper that we put in the Annals book, was to have a response protocol where the algorithm can tell you what the source of this waveform was after about 30 seconds. Then that can back project and deliver the tsunami location. It can forward deliver the flooding depth, and it can also forward deliver the flooded points and whether they're red or green. And we figured the best thing to do was have a lookup table. Don't do it in real time, just have a library of maps and deliver them depending on the trigger waveform. Next. So step 3 now has been to test whether these paths are real, because it's based on a model, a theoretical model. But we've been testing with real people, generally groups of students. Did you do it, Thomas? Yeah, Thomas participated in that. Emmy herself, I think, might have participated in it before she started her master's, maybe. Sophie, did you? Yeah, we've all participated in that. We've had about 200 participants so far. And we generally pick these points here because they're popular points. So just next to the jetty at Fico Grande, where the fastest evacuation route is up the stairs, up the main staircase to 13. We've also tried from the middle of the beach as well as an Airbnb here. The next. So typically we have around 20 students. We say, okay, the first test we do is no knowledge, no education. We just say, when the siren goes, you need to get to 10 meters above sea level as quickly as you can. That's all we tell them. And we give them a few minutes. We tell them to sit down, lie down. We also tell them typical aircraft evacuation. Do not take anything with you. Do not take your bags. Just get out as quickly as you can. This is the first video. Watch, where are they? They're all going the wrong way. What's these two? What's these two? No, is it those two? No, it's these two. She decides to follow those that are going the wrong way, and she hesitates. No, she should have gone that way. She should have followed the 3 that went the right way. Invariably, everyone goes that way because it's the most obvious way to go. It's also the way we bring them in, because it's the way a tourist will come from the Aliscafe landing to the beach. So you go the known way. And these two guys here are doing what happens an awful lot. There's Domenico Mangione watching, joining in. They follow the herd, of course, and they change their mind depending on what the herd's doing. The next. So in that case, only 3 out of 20 students made the right choice. In the next case, we tell them where to go. We say, when the siren goes, you need to leave the port. They're all down there. And you need to go to where Emmy is standing here with the video camera. And we tell them that involves coming along this front road here, finding the stairs, going up the stairs. And once you get to the top of the stairs, keep going, because you can't just stop and block the exit points. Now, generally, we also tell them not to run and not to take their bags. So the group at the front have already broken into a run, and because the group at the front have broken into a run, the rest begin to run. And we see a little problem here. Wrong way. So even though they've been told to find stairs, they're going up a dead end. This guy here's questioning that. He's actually looking at the map, and he's told the rest, no, they've gone the wrong way, follow me. So he's using intelligence to try and get out. So now they've got to come up the stairs. And this is a hard bit. And frankly, although our tests are, they're biased towards very young, fit people. So, for example, my 80-year-old blind, deaf, overweight mum would never be able to do this. So it's a very, very biased test. So he's got out in time. They're all out in time. Notice we've got the first person the first two people who we've told not to bring bags with them. They're all keeping moving. It's the last person who arrives is too exhausted to go any further. So she just collapsed at this point here, blocking the escape way. So in this case, we only had one bad decision, and everyone got out in time. Fastest in 1 minute 40, slowest in 2:43. Here comes the exhausted one at the end. We won't go on to the collapse point. Can we have the next one? So for this test, it's guided but with an unexpected event. We tell them, or we give them the map and tell them that they're here. And they've got to use that same blue escape route that comes up the steps to escape route 13. We also tell them that the second fastest escape route is this yellow one, up to 14. And we give them a surprise. Off you go, Emmy. So they're all down here they come, and they've got to go up these stairs. But these stairs are blocked. There's been an accident. There's an RP parked in front of it. So I'm standing here telling them it's blocked. You can't come up here. And the problem is not a single person. Remember, these are volcanology students who have just 2 minutes ago listened to a little lecture on escape times, evacuation points. They've been told where to go. They've also been told the second fastest way to go. Not a single one of them stopped here, thought, turned around, and went back the second quickest way. They all carried on going the way they were initially going, heading towards a place where it's impossible to get above 10 meters for about 10 minutes. So again, they've all broken. The first person here has broken into a run, quite a fast run, good running style. But no, it's blocked. I'll keep going. Yeah, and the others just follow. No pausing, no thinking, just follow. Whether walking or running, yeah, I'll carry on straight on as well. Every single person didn't stop and think, what's the second fastest way? So if we have this result with well-educated, fit students with maximum amount of knowledge, how do we communicate escape routes to people with no knowledge and help them to make the correct decision if the unexpected arrives? Next, Emmy. So in general, our escape times are within the theoretical times, meaning that we're nicely conservative. The only one that's over is this one, because we handicapped one group. We made them carry, 2 rucksacks of rocks to simulate carrying children. And those were the ones that couldn't get off on time. So that brings me back to the caution. This is for perfect conditions with perfect response, no children, no people to look after, and fit fit young people. And no flip-flops, no bare feet, good shoes. So the other model versus reality we've been doing is individually testing every single route to see if they're feasible, because on the map it may look good, but if you actually try this route, for example, you find it's actually not maintained and blocked or difficult to get up. So that's an example of a blocked one. The next example is of a wave eroded escape route off the beach. These are usually maintained in the summer. Wooden steps get put in, but in the winter it's extremely difficult, for example, to get out from these exit points here. This is the only viable exit point in the winter due to the big difference in height between the road here and the beach, and also blockage by rubble and boulders. Next. And also there's the problem of multi-risk, multi-hazard, because this escape route here is this one up to number 14, and it's frequently used by lahars. So if you're unfortunate enough to be having to escape during a rainstorm or during a lahar event, you're heading into a lahar. So the final step has been to better populate our population distribution database. And this has involved surveys four times a year, 4 times a day for periods of about 10 days to get population distributions for Vulcano, Stromboli and Lipari. So this is the result for Vulcano. Of course, the beach is very highly populated in the summer, more than 100 people there. Of course, the port area and the main street. And of course, the problem with Vulcano is the whole area is more or less at sea level. So there's a lot of people in need of help. And we're currently using the INGV PISA to calculate wave arrival times for a tsunami sourced at Stromboli, and it's about 10 minutes. It's about 10 minutes. The next. So we've also, for example, considered craft, boats. One, because they'll have to get out of the way or abandon ship. And 2, it will become part of the wave load. It'll be part of the debris entrained into the wave to come into the populations on the beaches. So the worst zone are the 2 marinas where the yachts are, because they're permanent. A slightly better zone is the port, because it's more transient. Boats are just there for a few minutes at any one time. But at any one time, there will be several boats there, and of course all the passengers needing to react. The next. So this is the same for Lipari, where Lipari we have the advantage in that the land rises quite quickly and steeply behind the beaches, and behind the seafronts. So there's not quite the same area to have to consider. And also, next, there are the boats which are more disjointed from the population, because they tend to be moored to the north, although we do have the problem of the very busy commercial harbour here and the very busy tourist harbour to the south. Next. So the final step, which is ongoing, Emmy needs to do this by middle of summer because she needs to leave. Her PhD money runs out in November. So it's to deliver or create a full GIS database that's capable of launching that integrated modelling with the flooded areas, the escape routes, the escape times, the wave arrival times, and whether the point is escapable or not. For Salina and Panarea, using web-based data, and Stromboli, Vulcano and Lipari using EMI survey data. That's ongoing, 50% there. So the final model will be our step 4, step 5, if you like, applying the model to the whole of the Aeolian island chain, and coming up with a blueprint, a protocol, as I said at the beginning, that can be applied to any island volcano or any island subject to unstable flanks that can trigger a local proximal, a local landslide where your population is proximal to the source. So a final thank you to Emmy, because I feel really bad because all of that work was hers, none of it was mine, so I've just presented Emmy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Andrew, and Emily too, for your very interesting work that is on a topic really critical for all the people that are involved in the risk management in Ireland in general, at Stromboli in particular. Have you seen from the simulation that is not so simple to leave a beach without possible some accident. The routes are very are not large. There are stairs, and not all the people are able to run on the stairs, over the stairs, in my opinion. People with children or block or rocks, as you like it, of course, may have some problems, and so on. Are there questions? Oh, first of this, I want to remember to people that are following us through streaming on our website INGV, at INGV. Please, if you want to ask for questions, you have to fill out the form that is on the page. Okay. So, are there questions? Comments? Okay, first Alessandro, then Jacopo.
Okay, thanks for your interesting presentation to both of you. And I have a question. You showed a lot of simulations based on one scenario, basically. And so you mentioned at the beginning that you have tested different scenarios of landslides and so on. And so the question is, if you are thinking of different simulations for the evacuation, I mean, because maybe you don't need to reach 10 meters or more every time, and so this depends on the choice that you make at the beginning. And also comment on the fact that now we have one elastic beacon. So there were two. Now in this moment there is only one, but we are installing new instruments to have a broader measure of the ongoing tsunami. And so we could have a measure of what's going on after 30 seconds or 1 minute if we measure in the beacons and some voice or in other places. So if you can, you think it's it's a good idea to base the evacuation timing and routes based on some a priori, let's say, probabilistic estimates on different scenarios, or on real-time measures of the tsunami, or both, because this, I think, would be the best thing to do if we think there is time and it's a feasible option, this one.
Check in me for an opinion, but yeah, I'd say of course both, because our step 2 there, we've actually considered about 150 something different scenarios in terms of volumes and locations. So we've got 150 different flooding depths and times. And for the first part of your question, you're right. Depending on how great the flooding area is, we do have to move those evacuation exit points upslope or even bring them downslope. So that the former makes places less evacuable. The latter makes them easier to evacuate because maybe the evacuation point's only 2 meters. So I know, Emmy, we've discussed doing that in as part of the simulation. Depending on the waveform that we get from the elastic beacon, we'll give a different escape route scenario. That's to say, this scenario just needs an evacuation point that's only 2 meters behind the beach, whereas this one needs one that's 30 meters behind the beach, which is eminently doable given your data, yeah.
And now we are going to, in several months we will have more maps on that, because we are almost ready with the elicitation test we made with INGVPs, and we will have a certain type of scenario and move the exit points, like Andy said. So it's not finished yet, but it's in progress.
And then for more measurements, more knowledge, more time, I mean, 10 or 20 seconds is when you're 4 minutes away from the source. 10 or 20 seconds is a big difference. So that those were those graphs in the middle. We can provide the amount of time we need to get 100% of people out for each scenario. And I think for the scenario gave, it was something like 5 minutes to get 100% of the people out. Yeah, it depends on simulation, but unfortunately, in some cases, for Pescita, for example, I think it's going to be almost impossible to get the time necessary to get out of there. But yeah, if we can have a 0-second alert, that's of course the ideal.
Thanks, girls and guys. Very interesting. I know that there are historical data about tsunamis, and also I think also prehistorical geological data about tsunamis in Stromboli. So maybe it's a question more for the PISA guys, but the simulation and the results of the simulation, how do they match the historical and prehistorical records of inundations at Stromboli? Do you know?
We've been working, of course, with Marco Pistolesi, and also, of course, our main calibration point has been the 2002 event, because that's the best observed and mapped one. But have you calibrated on others, Emmy?
No, but I know for the elicitation they made to have the more probable position and volume of future landslide. They include in the simulation the natural data they found in turbidite and on land on Stromboli, and it's made by Marco Pistolesi.
Yeah, so for the learning part of the expert elicitation, they were given all historical and deposit data as to when, how big, what level, what elevation. So I guess it's the expert group of 25 people that will try and come up with the statistics that's based on the geological and historical data. But yeah, maybe someone from PISA would be better to comment on that if they're up there.
I don't know. We will see. Okay.
I have a question. I have a question from the online people, and Giacomo Pincini is asking, in the simulation you took into account the time of the day, night, and also the period of the year, summer, winter. to compute the time to escape, do you think about using also the weather conditions, sunny and rain?
Emmy.
It's a good question. For the moment, we didn't think about that, but yeah, it's really an issue because, like Andy say, if you have some hour in the same time, it's difficult for people to know where to evacuate, especially during the night. I don't think there is light in Stromboli.
No.
They think to install them a few months ago, but I'm not sure they have. It's we can include, but I'm not sure how for the moment.
Slippery stairs.
Right. Yep. And also those stairs as well, that there's big holes in them. It'd be so easy on a dark night, a dark slippery night, to break your leg on trying to go up there in a panic. So that's definitely something to take into account in the discussion.
I have another question, just a curiosity. In the simulation that you or people from Pisa have performed on shore, okay, were also included the possibility that the tsunami may have been generated by a pyroclastic flow.
We've only considered landslide generated, but of course have discussed pyroclastic generated flow, where at our laboratory, Raphael Paris, among others, is modelling in the water tanks, tsunami triggering by pyroclastic flows of different density contrasts and velocities entering the water. So yeah, that's very much a work in progress to consider that trigger, but so far it's only been the landslide trigger.
Okay, thank you. Other question? Other comments? Yes, Alessandro?
No, just a comment about the zero alert time that you were mentioning. Actually, one discussion that we have been doing in the last month, in the last couple of years, is that if there is the possibility to make a kind of pre-alert based on the volcano evolution, when there are signals of some activities going on, if it's worth sending a tsunami alert. And something already exists, actually, because in the current procedures, when there is, but only when there is a paroxysmal eruption, there is the indication of leaving the beaches. Of course, no one knows these probably of people going to the beach, but there is this indication. So should be probably in this case you have probably more time, because maybe a false alert. I mean, because of course it's not the tsunami may not start completely, but there is something. So this is something that we are thinking probably it's worthwhile having more time and maybe more false alarms.
I think Emmy will agree with this, but it negates her entire PhD. But the best thing to do is get everyone out of the way well before the tsunami is triggered. So yeah, your scenario is the perfect one, but it means Emmy's PhD has been for nothing.
Yes, I suppose that the best way is to have instruments that allow us to have an alarm just before the 10 seconds, the 1 minute that we have now. And the second problem probably is that new infrastructures are needed in order to allow to the people to evacuate. One stairs is not sufficient, possibly. We have also other beach in the island, like Spiaggia Lunga, in which we have only one way to go out from the beach, and this is another problem. So, of course, some logistic need to be changed. If you agree.
How are your simulations for that Peshitta side? They're quite gloomy, aren't they?
Sometimes for Peshitta you have only maybe 30 seconds to evacuate, so if you're close to the sea, you need to be a good runner, because with children, or if you are an older lady,
You have to be young.
with good shoes, because
Shoes.
you have a lot of big rocks, so yeah.
Hi. I had just a question referring to the infrastructure. So there is any work on how to improve it in Stromboli, for example, on this side?
I think there is a team is working on vulnerability of building and road. I think in Unifi, it's in the University of Firenze. It's Turchi, Agnes Turchi. I think she work on that.
We actually stopped looking at the infrastructure because we realised another group was doing it and had better expertise than us in infrastructure, so we stopped at infrastructure. That's why we stopped thinking a bit about vertical evacuation, because although we know the height of the building, we don't know the strength of the building and whether the building itself, let alone the roof, will resist impact by a tsunami. So we've stopped before the infrastructure, and we've sort of leaving that for the parallel group to assess.
I think we work together inside the task 2.2.
Yeah, there's INGV TPC led initiative that's just coming to an end to consider multi-risk, multi-hazard at Stromboli, and that's put all the groups together and in contact and in dialogue, so everyone knows what everyone else has. So it's nicely glued together.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah, Leonardo?
Sorry, my question is not very scientific, but it's just curiosity. In case the escape time is too short, so is there any advice how you can maximize the chance to survive the wave?
We've decided not to go any further than just the science, because we don't feel as scientists it's our job to give advice or recommendations. It's just our job to give the numbers, give the science, the uncertainties.
I mean, possibly on the basis of former experiences of people who survived the waves. How did they to manage to survive?
I think in Japan, the lot of people survive by climbing on the roof, but you have no certainty the roof will stay solid. So
once the wave hit you, you have no chance to survive.
some people survive, but it's depending on the flow depth. Because if you have a wave of 10 meters, it's extremely rare to survive.
Also the load, because at Stromboli, from our interviews with the population, the older people there, their fathers would tell them, when you hear a rumbling sound, run, because that's the sound of the withdrawal before the tsunami comes in, pulling back all those big basalt boulders on the shore. Now all those basalt boulders are going to be part of the wave coming in as well. So there's the load of debris that wave's carrying that's really going to do the damage, battering, impact injuries, as well. Of course, that's why we've been looking at the boats. And if you stand in front of Lipari Harbour at maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's 2 or 3 ferry boats that will be thrown onto the hotels, and all everything else that's in the water there. So yeah, we focus on that to take into account how dangerous is the wave in terms of its load that it's carrying on shore as well. Do you agree, Emmy?
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Very interesting work. Me with my team, with the Tsunami Alert Center, are working on the tsunami risk perception studies, especially in Stromboli. In 2023, we collect around several hundred questionnaires to address the social impact also and the knowledge of the tourists who approach Stromboli for more than one days or just for one day. That are the big number of tourists that stay for one day. And the results are not very comfortable because a lot of people don't know, for example, the sound of the sirens. They don't know the vertical signage for the evacuation route. And I'm curious if you collect some data about, for example, the people who were involved in the evacuation test that you did, or several hundred other data about the people who lives in Stromboli, for example, or about the tourists to better understand also the feasible of your model or something other.
Yeah, I think we've done, 7 tests now with a total of about 300 students, age range probably 20 to 30, and a fairly equal mixture of male and female, and probably at least 25 different nationalities and languages. And I mean, the result is probably as gloomy as your result. If only 3 out of 20 young, fit, well-educated volcanologists can make the right decision, a lot of education, a lot of education needs to be launched. Have you?
But I think it's become better because in September we were on Stromboli with Domenico Mangioni of Civil Protection, and we talked with beach owner, the beach owner of Fico Grande, and in July, I think, in early July they have a tsunami alert, and the beach owner know the rules, so they, with several colleagues, they evacuate all the beaches with every tourist in less 4 minutes. So he was very happy because when we told him you maybe have 3 or 4 minutes to evacuate, it was a great exercise for them.
Yeah, I can imagine. We had a different also different kind of experience on the island because we first of all administered a questionnaire, but we also had in-depth interview with several inhabitants, but also with the hotel's owner. And the results are very contrastable. I don't know if because someone accept, some other don't accept several things about the evacuation, about also the siren, about different kind of problem. And yeah, we need to work a lot also about the trust in institution, in science, and civil protection and other things. So I'm interested if you have several different data, and we can also match the result. You can also download the paper Moreschini et al. 2024. Yeah, take note, and it's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for the great presentation. It was just a curiosity along the line of what Lorenzo just pointed out. During your exercises, which as far as I can tell have been over different months in different times of the year, I suppose that there must have been some visitors, some tourists, some maybe yes, maybe not, depending on the time of the year. I was curious about the reaction that you may have gleaned or perceived, or whether it was part of your log data on what was going on while you were having the exercises.
Yeah, 100% people just look at the students like either they're crazy or they're having some fun, or there's a race going on, or something like that. So, yeah. Because you can imagine you've got 20 students in walking boots and field gear with their rucksacks lying down next to a family making sandcastles in bikinis. And suddenly all these students in their big boots lie down, someone says, "Go!" and they all start running. It's just...
What you said about this last experience with the beach owner seems to be giving a very strong suggestion to what would be the right direction to go. I mean, guided evacuation seems to be much more effective than spontaneous. So more involvement with the locals and training people to help in this case may be an option.
Yeah, I think Domenico Giovanni told me there is a group of voluntary people who begin to form, and they begin to teach them how to react and how to help tourists, because tourists have no knowledge of that. So with volcanic guide, I think it's they part of the same group.
Yes, this is interesting, but it's clear that at Stromboli there is a lack of an emergency plan that involved together scientists, populations, and administrators, and so on. We have the experience at Campi Flegrei in which a not definitively finished emergency plans, not definitively finished because each time that we have new knowledge, it needs to be again revised, in which there is, of course, the situation is very different. We are not in an island, we are in a city, in a very urbanized area, and in which in the emergency plan give all the indication to the people where they have to go before for the evacuations. The big difference is that people in Campi Flegrei are not requested to evacuate or to escape in 4 minutes, but in several days, and this is a big difference. However, the model I ask to you, do you think that the model of an emergency plan that is, of course, done with the authorities, with the civil protection authorities, in which there are clear indications of the streets, of the way in which one need to escape when, and so on, with of course some also help from the civil protection authority, need to be done in that area, or is sufficient the experience, the good experience that you are doing, also including people from the civil protection?
You mean you want to have the same method of evacuation like we did for tsunami? How we can apply to evacuation of... I think it's depending on the area you want to evacuate, because it's for Stromboli it's a small island, so we have pixels of 20 meters on 20 meters, so it's pretty precise. But in terms of compifigure, the area is too big, so you need to reduce the precision. So, but you can have an estimation of evacuation time just in modify this parameter. I think it's possible.
It would probably be more suited to a higher power multi-agent model, something like that. I think something that big is beyond the capacity of our model. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. More questions? Last questions, because we have to move to another talk in 4 minutes or 3 minutes. Okay, in 3 minutes we need to move to another talk. So if you have the last questions from the network, okay, stop. So thank you very much again, Andrew and Emily. Thank you very much. See, okay. So we may move to Sophie. And we move also to another Aeolian island, Vulcano. Okay. So, selective decoupling of soil degassing species and heat flux at surface sealed hydrothermal systems evidence from Vulcano. A lot of topic. Interesting. Thank you, Sophie. Okay, Sophie Pailot-Bonnétat.
Perfect. Just test. Oups. Je teste juste pour voir si ça va bien. Et no, Amy, please come back. Okay. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. I would like to present you a collaborative work done with few colleagues from the Laboratory of Magma and Volcanoes in Clermont-Ferrand, as well as Giancarlo Tamburello from ING Bologna. And I will be the one today to present you the selective decoupling of soil degassing species and heat flux at surface sealed hydrothermal system with evidence from Vulcano. So Vulcano Island, located in the Aeolian archipelago, a composite island from which the active volcanic center is currently the Fossa crater. The last eruption was in 1888 to 1889, and since then the hydrothermal activity resumed and is mostly located on the Fossa crater north rim in red here, but also on more north on the Baia di Levante, which also includes the Febbraio cone and the Aquacalde beach. There have been several unrests, with the last one starting in 2021. Please. So here are the few pictures that we took during our field campaigns with the Fossa cone, with here the fumarole fields on the northern rim. We can see with different colors the sulfur deposition in the fumarole areas, but as well as the area of thermal anomaly in gray and the area of ambient ground in red here. For the Febbraio cone, we have also evidence of hydrothermal circulation with mineralization. And also, since 2022, we also had some events of degassing in the sea, which give this very light color to the water due to the sulfur precipitates inside. So to understand the fluid circulation and fluxes on the for the Vulcano hydrothermal system, we installed measurement array, punctual measurement array, mainly in the Fossa crater, but also
profile, a 50-meter long profile across the Faraglione cone here. And we measure temperature by using thermocouple and radiometer, as well as accumulation chamber for soil CO2 flux, multigas, and finally resistivity, electrical resistivity tomography profile in yellow here. I will start by, oops, please go back, Amy. Showing the result for this area here on the fossa, mainly the profile one here in red, and the 40-meter long profile with the red rectangle, which are doubled by the ERT profile in yellow, and also are across the transition zone between here, the thermal ground, and the ambient ground here. Please. So for the profile one, it's a 50-meter long profile, and we make measurements every 5 meters of surface temperature at depth temperature at 10 centimeter, and measurements of soil CO2 flux are collocated. Please come back, Amy, again. So for June 2021, so before the unrest, it's very easy to see the difference between the ambient ground here and the thermal ground. There is a difference between the two of at least 20 degrees centigrade with the thermal ground, and sometimes there is also hotspots with temperature at depth, which are boiling temperature. We can see also that the transition between the ambient and thermal ground is very abrupt. And during September 2021, so the onset of the unrest, the whole area of thermal ground was basically at boiling or near boiling temperature. We also realized that the transition between thermal and ambient ground moved back by 5 meters. And it continued in January 2022. So the transition moved back by 10 meters by then. And in our puncture measurement, this is a higher degree of displacement we had. Since then, it moved back to plus 5 meters, which is still ongoing at the moment. So it's still not back to pre-unrest level. If we look now at the multigas data, so just a little methodology precision there. For the multigas, we are not measuring the gas concentration in the air, but we are measuring the gas concentration coming from 10 centimeter depth. So it's basically the gas that is inside the ground. So I made again the transition between, I marked the transition between ambient and thermal. And for the gas concentration, what we can see that in the ambient ground, there is no sulfur gases species. But the further we go inside the thermal ground, the further the concentration increase. However, for the CO2, there is an increase in the thermal ground, but it's also present outside on a bigger scale. So it's the big 40 long meter profile MG. In gray here, this is the area of thermal ground, so it's a thermal anomaly. Once again, we can see that there is sulfur gases appearing inside, but the CO2 is present everywhere. It's kind of doing its own thing. So now looking at the data that we took at when we were doing the ERT profile, we have, please Amy, here we have collocated peaks of soil CO2 flux with spontaneous polarization, positive peaks which indicate an upward flow, and we, please Amy, interpret this as the margin of the heat pipe. So this is an area of ascending vapor, please Amy, and inside this area of the heat pipe, we have also two negative anomalies of spontaneous polarization. This one here, which I will come back later to, and this one here that is at the same area of the rim. Looking now at the resistivity, we inside this heat pipe we have the presence of several low resistivity anomalies, which actually are forming roots. On the top of these low resistivity anomalies, we have here a layer of higher resistivity, which with inside lenses of very high resistivity anomalies in yellow. And the highest anomalies are just here on the rim and below the rim. Looking now at the Febbraio area, again, Amy, please. There is also, it's possible to differentiate the ambient ground here with low temperature and from the thermal ground with high temperature, and there is temporal variation between surveys, but this dichotomy always stays. Amy, please. Looking now at the multi-gas data here, again, please, Amy. So this is a transition between ambient and thermal, and once again, like on the Febbraio cone, in the ambient ground there is none or almost none sulfur gases, which are increasing a lot in the thermal ground. And once again, the CO2 is present everywhere. One thing I forgot to mention also is that the CO2 flux peaks are not spatially correlated with peaks of temperature. They are either absent or there is a shift in by 5, 10 few meters from the location of these peaks. Oops, Amy, come back. So now looking at gathering all this data together, we can first create a surface model flux, model, sorry. So the model takes into account the fact that the heat comes from advection with the vapor. It's generated then by the condensation at the 100 degrees isotherm, and then it's transferred through the surface by permeable convection and conduction. The reason why there is a spatial decoupling between heat and the soil CO2 flux is because in the surface we have the presence of case hardened crusts. So this crust is formed by the hydrothermal fluid circulation, which means alteration, clay formation, pore filling because of hydrothermal mineralization. And this crust is highly impermeable. So that means that the heat can be transferred through by conduction, but the gas cannot go through. So it has to migrate laterally beneath the crust to escape at an area of higher permeability, which means it's the channelization of heat and gas fluxes to a steaming ground, or basically ephemeral. Now, if we use heat flux model and we actually invert them, we can get calculation of conductivity, permeability. Here, this is the result for permeability. In the purple line here, this is permeability for the profile 1 before unrest. And what we can see is that in the ambient ground, we have typical value of 10 to minus 15, 10 to minus 14, which increases to 10 to the minus 10 in the thermal ground, with areas of hotspots that shows very high permeability of up to 10 to the minus 3. And during the unrest, so, the onset of unrest, in September 2021, this permeability increased majorly. On the bigger scale, we can create a model where there will be two mixing zones for the two different zones of La Fossa and the Febbraio area. The reason there is no, there is no SO2 in the Febbraio area, only H2S. And we interpret this as the fact that this mixing zone is closer to the sea, which means there is a greater contribution of marine fluids compared to the Fossa area, where there is a greater contribution of magmatic fluids. But the two different heat pipes are very highly permeable, which explains the channelization of heat and gases. And then the presence of only CO2 and not sulfur gases in the areas outside of the heat pipe can be explained by sulfur scrubbing. Now, if we take a look at the ERT data coupled with our surface fluxes, we can model we can understand the fluid circulation of steam, heat, and gases. So, or please, AP. The three roots of low resistivity anomalies, C1, C2, and N here, are ascending vapor flux. So that means that the southern limit here of C1 and northern limit of N here are the margin of the heat pipe, where there is a coupling between soil CO2 flux and the heat flux, which means here only it's a highly permeable area. And again, the vapor fluxes are then converging toward the rim, which is consistent with the stress field fracturation that is already present in the literature. Then again, please, Amy. Here, this area here, it's the same area where there was negative spontaneous polarization anomaly. And we interpret this as a descending water flux coming from the condensation. And then, please, Amy, upward, above the convective cell, we have a layer of higher permeability with the lenses of very high permeability, resistivity, anomalies. So these lenses in yellow. And these are the impermeable areas. So the heat can go through again by conduction, but the gases need to flow laterally to escape at between the lenses, basically. Finally, we can estimate the upward water flux and the downward condensed water fluxes. So we estimated that during period of low hydrothermal activity, the there is no actually downward water flux. So all vapor is coming towards the surface and escapes towards the atmosphere. And the upward water flux is estimated to be 15 to 30 kilograms per second. And so during the unrest, what we calculated that we had an increase to around 300 kilograms per second of upward water flux, vapor flux, and a downward water flux of 17 to 86 kilograms per second. So in conclusion, this work have been used to map the uppermost portion of the Vulcano heat pipe to infer deeper pathways and quantify mass and energy fluxes. So here we have two tightly sealed heat pipes, and the geometry at the surface is not simple. It's actually multiple branches of ascending vapor. The ascent pathways are controlled by the lithology. So, for example, if there is a lava flow, if there is a clay, as well as structural influences and the stress field. The vapor condenses near surface, and but the steam and gases cannot go through a highly impermeable surface crust. So the vapor ascends towards the margins of the heat pipe and descends in the middle, which creates an annular flow of inside this convection cell. And we also can get some key parameters for the soil, such as the permeability, which is different between the ambient and the thermal ground, as well as in steaming ground. And what we calculated during baseline periods, so low hydrothermal activity, is heat fluxes between 6 to 20 megawatts, which compares to 15 to 30 kilograms per second of steam fluxes. But during unrest, the heat fluxes increases to 60 to 120 megawatts and almost 30 kilograms per second of vapor fluxes. Please, Amy. So thank you for your attention, and thank you to all the hydrothermal system dynamic helper we helped on the field. And we forgot to mention also Tanya Ganshi from ING Catania, which helped us a lot with satellite data processing. Thank you.
Sophie, did you perform measurements with the mask in the La Fosse? Yeah?
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
and who are you?
Where am I? So I'm here.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting. Questions? Jacopo.
I may have missed something. How did you measure the permeability? In situ, in the lab?
So, Amy, can you please now go out of the... Hold on. I'm just going to show you. It's another paper. I hope you can see. Attention, je fais ça, ça va marcher, non? Yeah, so this is actually what I was talking about when I said that we use heat flux models and we invert them. So basically the model comes from what I said, the heat comes from depths is advected, then generated by the condensation and moved towards the surface by permeable convection and convection. What we actually are measuring is the radiation and the permeable, the convective fluxes at the surface. So basically M out there. And what we do is we actually are reversing the equations to get the parameter in yellow, which includes the permeability. So this method is actually using total heat fluxes calculated for the wall area using satellite data, but also the in situ measurements we've used with thermocouple on the key areas that we selected, which is mainly the profile one.
And just a question on what you have said. And the on-field measurements are used simply added to the satellite measurements, or they are in some time represents the initial conditions for the inversion?
No, so for the inversion, both fields and satellite measurements are used. At the beginning of the project, the goal was actually to use a variety of in situ measurements to validate the heat fluxes that we were going to calculate with the satellites. And this was especially important because since there was a widespread increase of the thermal anomaly area during the unrest, we had to use the ground data to validate the pixels that we were seeing as anomalies on the satellites.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? No? No one excited by the sulfur scrubbing? No?
I have a question.
Yeah?
I am not familiar with the degassing processes in Vulcano, but do you have an idea if there is an influence between the temperature of the weather during the day and the night for the degassing flux?
So I'm actually not a gas expert as well. It's mainly quarters. What we can see in the thermal data, of course, there is an influence of solar heating during the day. I personally do not know if there is a change on the daily cycle of fluxes for gases. This is not measurement that we made. So it's point-time measurements at some time during the day. So we do not have a daily cycle where we could see, oh, during the night or during the day there is a difference.
Okay, grazie.
So very short.
I would like to know what kind of satellite data have you used for this, for calculate the flux, the thermal flux?
So mainly Aster.
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 Okay.
No,
So
Mars.
that's
No, because we wanted to have the highest spatial resolution available at the time.
It's about 90 meters.
Exactly, 90 meters, exactly. But it's, of course, a better resolution would be great, but it's still enough to very differentiate anomalous pixels. And during the unrest, we could select more than 50 anomalous pixels. So it's really, at least it's enough to detect some, how to say this, some dynamic variation of the hydrothermal system activity.
Okay, thank you.
Last questions or not? Not so. Everything is clear. Thank you very much, Sophie, for your very interesting. Okay, now it's time to go to lunch. I hope you enjoy it.
Et tout le monde, je connais ce visage, et c'est les cheveux qui m'ont induit en erreur.
En plus, je crois que tu étais en mission sur Stromboli. Exactement, donc je m'en rappelle. Moi, ça, je me rappelle du fait que, en fait, dans la classe, il y avait très peu de nanas. Et la seule avec qui j'avais parlé, ça faisait un peu cette tournée-là, parce qu'elle était là tout le temps sur les films de base, et moi, je n'étais plus là. Et je crois que je l'ai rencontrée quand tu étais en contrat, et moi, j'étais avec Franck. Et moi, je sais, il a repris, il m'a envoyé un live à Franck, il lui a envoyé des films. Il a écrit un abstract pour ouais, j'y vais, j'essaie. Ouais, mais j'aimerais me faire des contacts un peu en France parce que j'ai beaucoup de contacts en Italie. Et en Europe, mais je veux bien monter en France. C'est vraiment pas
Just before the crisis, just across the crisis. It was starting, there was changing, it was changing the other level.
Ouais, Baptiste, il est sorti avec une pote. Ouais, non, en fait, elle était pas du tout amoureuse de lui. Et lui, il était en fouillait. moi je suis allée ici à Seminario, parce que c'était elle est très très rapide, donc je l'ai vraiment vachement sur la muraille, je l'aime de tout mon cœur, son système sur bref, il a ce temps. Oui, oui, voilà. Ouais, ouais, c'est sympa. Je déménage dès qu'on trouve un truc, mais en vrai, je devais déménager fin mars, fin janvier. Je suis un peu trop stressée d'emménager pour le bien faire. Parce qu'on fait 2 ans ensemble à distance.
Well, I'm working on sea level rise knowledge cost of
Franchement, c'est avec un autre prof qui est bleu.
project
Ils
for
font.
the
Et qui parle
to
comme
estimate the
Ben
sea
comment
level rise
c'est ça.
by 2150 around the coast of so yeah for climate change. I'm providing a solution which evaluation model from LiDAR data. We analyze the LiDAR data and we are providing the maps of scenarios in different
C'est vrai? Il est souvent clair.
scenarios
Peut-être qu'il était en version avec le temps, parce qu'en plus, je sais pas.
It's hard work because there's a lot of process LiDAR data is very heavy.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais vraiment?
We have to analyze of the surveys because sometimes they have some problem on the reference system and so on. But we did a lot of work there, but we have to people to show what can be done. Yeah, they're working on that. Yeah.
Et ce soir, vous faites quoi?
Yeah. So, are you planning to go back to Vulcano? In when? Oh! So just not to do the end September again, similar conditions, or June to have similar conditions.
Là, déjà ce matin, je suis arrivée pile poil à la présentation et je suis avec qui est passé.
Okay.
Donc en vrai, trop. La chance, énormément, énormément. À part quand je fais du terrain, tout ça, c'est complètement. Là, en fait, j'ai un peu chaud. Toi, t'as déjà publié des articles? Du coup, t'as déjà vu des articles depuis que la. Non, on a déjà vu. Moi, c'est. Ouais, moi, non, moi, c'est. Bon, après, je pose la question pour curiosité, parce qu'en Italie, c'est un peu différent. Les articles sont passés. Et t'as plus qu'à faire. Et tu peux avoir seulement 2 articles de texte. Donc, en gros, j'ai une intro, une conclusion générale écrite, et je mets 2 articles entre les deux, sans liaison sur l'impact de sono et sur l'ambiance de et du coup, c'est parti pour les filles avec les étudiants, tout ça, et faire des évaluations. And voilà, les comportements, en calculage,
She's waiting for you. Yeah.
Son téléphone.
Tu veux ton téléphone,
Sophie?
Tu peux.
Ouais, je m'occupe. Mais je vais aller poser les choses avant de te faire. Combien de temps c'est ouvert?
C'est le 2e étage? C'est une toute petite, c'est ça exactement. Vous y êtes du coup toute la journée?
Ouais, enfin toute la journée. Il y a Coco, je crois, qui va nous faire visiter aussi.
Il y a Coco, c'est mon superviseur.
Il y a personne parce